Thank you so much, Ariel. It's a pleasure to be with you. And thank you, Jean-Marie, for the opportunity to present this work that we've been doing. So basically, the idea here was we were asking ourselves whether and how trade-related measures were used in nationally determined contribution of developing countries. And so this is what we're going to be presenting. I'm not going to go into detail here because I think Matteo did a good job of when we all know, I think, in this room what nationally determined contributions are, and that we are, it was clear with the global stock take at COP28 that we're not on track to achieve the 1.5 or the 2 degree. So the next update in 2025, we can't miss this opportunity to have a 1.5 degree align NDCs. So our question is, how can trade-related measure help? And investment-related measures as well, which we're doing with our colleague in the investment division. So what we decided to do is to review 60 NDCs from different regions of the world, including Africa, Asia, the Pacific, Latin America, the Caribbean, and Middle East, to represent the regional diversity, income level, include LDCs, SIDS, landlocked countries, and commodity-dependent countries. And we use the NDCs that are new or updated submission as of September 2023, because we released this report at COP28 last year. And in the context of NDCs, measures here consider policies and action to reduce emission and adapt to climate change. So that's pretty simple. And what we did, these are the countries that we've mapped. And then quickly the finding in the nutshell, and then we can go in deeper, more nuanced conclusion. So basically, and not surprising, what we find is a lot of these trade-related measures are related to renewable energy efficiency, which related to what Matteo was talking about, green value chain development, technical regulation, green industrial policies, market-based measures, subsidies and tax credit, public procurement, and tariffs. So quite a bit of overlap there or complementarity. And so in total, we found 680 trade-related measures that have been in these 60 NDCs with direct and indirect linkages to trade. And so with direct measure, what we mean is that they can increase or restrict trade flow in selected goods. The indirect one can create green value chain and diversification opportunities, so diversification of export. And also they don't necessarily focus on trade, but if they can successfully implement. If they're successfully implemented, they can likely trigger an increase in carbon competitiveness of product or creation of new green industry, which can increase trade flow in these products. So quickly, if I give a few examples, so on renewable energy, for instances, here if you have a few examples from Burkina Faso, Morocco, Bangladesh, Cuba, Bahamas, and Namibia. And so their most common measure which are adopted by 50 countries in the study. They often lead to increase in import or renewable energy equipment like solar panel and wind turbines, as you can see in here. And then we have the second one is green value chain development, which about 35% of the countries have that aim to reduce greenhouse gas emission and enhance sustainability in the value chains. Then there's technical regulation. These are simple measures on technical regulation that you can see that include minimum energy performance standard and labeling requirements, used to ensure, for example, that imported product meet specific carbon emission and efficiency standard. And then here you have some example from Namibia, Colombia, the UAE, and Gabon on, for instance, on vehicles and on appliances. And just as a sideline that the UN Trade and Development colleagues have also identified over 2,360 climate-related non-tariff measures that regulate about 26.4% of world trade, equivalent to $6.5 trillion. And that's a different document, but it's important to mention that here. And then there's the green industrial and economic diversification, that about 20% of them overlap with the green value chain. Then market-based measures that include carbon credit scheme and subsidies. And more than half that identified in the study are related to REDD+ and deforestation. And then some other trade measures. In terms of oops, I think it's, I can't go backwards. So if we could go back so I can go forward. Ah, not using the right way. Okay. So while we go back, so almost 40% of the technical regulation map were commonly adopted in conjunction with measure aiming to promote energy efficiency, and covered appliances, vehicles, and construction materials. So thank you so much for this. I was just using the wrong buttons. In terms of conclusion and recommendation, first, trade-related measure aim at increasing renewable energy sources and energy efficiency, green value chain development, green industrial development, and economic diversification. So show strong potential link to trade. Can I go back to the PowerPoint if it's possible? And so effort in this area can increase trade in low carbon product and services, boost developing countries' carbon competitiveness, and contribute to creating new industries such as green hydrogen, for instances. Second, there's a need for increased coordination and inclusion of trade stakeholders and ministries throughout the elaboration of validation of processes of the NDCs. At the few trade-related measures that are directly related shows that the trade ministries are not necessarily involved and other ministries in the production. So it would be of very important for the next round of NDCs that the trade and investment finance ministries get involved, as well as stakeholders. That could help then accelerate climate change goal, increase carbon competitiveness and market access, enhancing adaptation strategies to ensure the resilience of export sectors, accelerating the transition to low carbon economy, to the identification of relevant opportunities in global market to competitive advantage, and then improving policy coherence by providing an entry point to link climate change and trade strategies, but also by identifying clearly the trade related measure, then they can be linked to the aid for trade process, which right now is a bit more tenuous. Then in terms of limitation, quickly, this is not a comprehensive mapping. We're going to keep working on this. We only had 60 countries, which add a large range of quality and format or robustness of NDCs that affected the quality of the analysis. And then there was different generation of NDCs that we use as well. And some of them have limited information, so we could not include them into the analysis. And it also only include NDCs that were produced in French, Spanish, and English. We didn't do the other languages, but this is something else that we could do in the future. And then the next step, we want to see how we can contribute to the effort of this, some sort of protocol or framework for NDC 3.0 for 2025 to ensure that we have a 1.5 aligned NDC. And then to ensure that there's the right ambition, what we need is to link these NDCs to the capacity and the means of implementation. And we feel at UNCTAD, UN Trade and Development, sorry, gonna get used to it, that these means of implementation, the trade and investment, especially in the capacity, needs to be there. So we hope to, as an outcome, to have better use of trade and investment as means of implementation in these NDCs, improving the capacity of developing countries to integrate the trade and investment related measures into their NDCs, and that help promote mitigation, adaptation, economic diversification, including export diversification, and facilitate market access. And we will be collaborating with pilot countries and sister UN entities to do that, including ITC, to ensure that we have the MSME angle as well. And so we will then identify the key export and import product and sector to be considered for the formulation of measures. And so based on comparative advantage, this is a methodology that UNCTAD has developed, and we're rolling out now throughout Africa with the ECA that our colleague Beatrice from UNEP mentioned earlier, on the comparative advantage of export, green export from Africa in the ACFTA context. We'll consult with all relevant stakeholders in the formulation of these NDCs, and then identify trade and policy options that would help achieve this 1.5. So here you have a bit of what I mentioned, the NGER, the Nationally Green Export reviews that we're doing. We're going to include in there the lessons from the 2023 World Investment Report on Energy Transition, because there we also reviewed the investment policies that are in NDC, so we'll combine the two. And we will do a analysis on on the related climate change related NTMs finding as well, which I mentioned earlier, and then introduce to member state, hopefully, this protocol by September 2024. So I'll stop here and entertain questions or comments as needed. Thank you so much.